So, last semester, I decided to venture into this. I have been afraid to do it for a long time. Last semester, I finally said, okay, what could happen? It doesn't go well. It's a couple of weeks of class that we waste. Let me give it a try. So, it was a composition class, and I said, let's go ahead. What we're going to do is the simplest possible design, which is a game based in the Georgia Tech campus that is going to offer a tour in Spanish to visitors, especially parents of Latino students, through the Georgia Tech campus in a way that they can learn about some of the points of interest on campus, as told by the students. So the students were the ones who had to identify what was worth telling visitors about Georgia Tech. We were working with the idea of ausonia. There is not an authority telling you what is relevant and what you should include in the app you develop. It's up to the users to decide what is worth being geotagged. No? And then we created a promo video that I will show you, basically explain what the app is about. And this was basically the idea behind Herencias, is the name of the app, or heritage, is the Spanish word for heritage. Promo video explaining basically the principle of the app. This is information provided by the students themselves, and they are going to talk about important historical buildings on campus, traditions that have been preserved on campus and that student values, and information of the sort. So how do we go about doing this application? What you're seeing here is the Iris editor, which is the interface that allows you to edit Iris applications, iPhone applications, or applications for the iPhone and the iPad. They haven't come up with a version for Android. And basically you have this sort of a canvas, which is the Google map, and you just create your tags and you drag and drop them where they are supposed to go. No? And this here in the Georgia Tech campus. And this is the Iris viewer, which is what allows you to see the application, to test it, debug it, and see that it's working, or just enjoy it if you are a user. How do we go about developing this app? So basically, I assign students to identify the points of interest, or POIs, on campus. And I will, yes, this is in Spanish. But I thought one of the major challenges to develop this application was to translate into Spanish some of the names we give to our immediate reality. Being back from. That took a good chunk of, 10 minutes of a class discussing in a group, being back room. And we came up with el cuarto de las bolitas de polietileno. When I said that, the student was like, I can change my subject. I don't need to write in the being back room necessarily. So the students identified these points of interest. Something that was very interesting for me, how they love Clough Commons. Clough Commons was still being built when I came to visit the campus a year and a half ago. And it's incredible how they have already such strong traditions built around Clough Commons. There were 3, and that's because I said, okay, no more tags on Clough Commons, but there were 3 tags on Clough Commons. The building in general, the roof, with the garden and everything, and then the beanbag room. And other students wanted to write more about Clough Commons. So Sideways was very popular. Students, for some reason, they are especially attached to Sideways, the dog, the mascot. The Kessler Company, of course, they also wanted to write about that more, less risky topic and more on your face. I asked them, if you want to reveal the underground Georgia Tech, go ahead and do it. You don't need to write about the Tech Tower, which several of them wanted to do. I said, if you want to write about the group of people who meet in a corner every Tuesday to talk about something, and you think that's a good tradition of Georgia Tech, that's part of the Georgia Tech heritage, go ahead and do it. And of course, I had a student who wrote about La Licoreria Maga. And he said, okay, for a Georgia Tech student to drink, without going into any excess, is part of the Georgia Tech tradition. I said, okay, you can include that there. It's up to you guys. So this, once we had all the points of interest, then they had to write a piece. And it was a 150 to 200 word piece on each of these points of interest. And I said, you need to write for a viewer, like in a situated documentary, you are creating a documentary for someone who is witnessing the place of the events. You need to write for a viewer that is there. So don't tell them, don't adopt the traditional narrative. Once upon a time in Northern Georgia, that you use commands. Look, use the space, the city space, as part of your subtext for what you are creating. And this is a student who got it, for instance. She was writing about the Yellow Jack Alley event. And this is a historic event, so she understood that she had to help the viewer to imagine what happened on that specific day at the Yellow Jack Alley, because the day that you're visiting, probably the event is not taking place. And then look at the way she wrote. This is an English translation of what she did in Spanish. Close your eyes and listen. Can you hear the cheer of the cheerleaders? Can you hear the band playing? Can you hear the sirens indicating the arrival of the Georgia Tech football team? So inviting the user to imagine immediately the event she's trying to show through this Aris geotag that she created. So once we had 35 points of interest, we realized a second challenge. You are not going to force the visitor to go through 35 stops. So we had to create a flow chart in a way that you go from point A to point B, and you go for a top 8 stops. You make no more than 8 stops. So I gave them this flow chart, and I said, work it out. And there was a teamwork they did. It was a really good experience in teamwork, how they engaged in a really intense discussion. Some of them say, no, we need to start in Tech Tower. And some of them say, no, the dormitories or whatever they thought was the place to start to learn about Georgia Tech. No? They engage in this discussion. These are them working with the flow chart. And once we had decided, then we started scripting the app so that once, at the end we started at the Tech Tower, no? So that the viewer could decide where he's going after visiting Tech Tower. The app basically tells you, now you can go to B or C. And once you get to B, it tells you, now you can go to D or E, etc. until you get to the end. So that's basically what I did with my students. Finally, me and some colleagues in modern languages, more specifically like Jan Usman, who is a German professor, we're working on creating a locative media learning center. And the mission of this, or the goal of this center, is going to be basically to foster collaboration between faculty and students through a promotion of more learning activities and the design and development of place-based application and games. So we're working on this. We're trying to set it up so that we can develop more apps with the students in the classrooms. It was a good experience, and we got what we believe are successful outcomes from this project. And these are some ideas we are considering to develop, specific apps that we're considering to develop. I will just show a couple of them. A Georgia Tech student was here to show the Georgia Tech global footprint. We're asking our study abroad instructors to give a student the assignment of creating a 45-second edited video from the most important landmarks that they visit all over the world. And they are supposed to introduce this landmark to the viewer in the language of that country that they are learning, and provide their expert knowledge of something specifically. If it is a student of architecture, it will explain the architecture of the building that is introduced in the target language. And at the end, everything closes with, my name is so-and-so, this is La Torre Eiffel, a Georgia Tech student was here. So I was also a sort of a campaign for what we do in our study abroad programs. We will upload all the videos to an app, and it's just to provide an idea, a general idea of the Georgia Tech global footprint. Smart cities in Spain. I started working with the students in this, and it's basically an app to identify some new information technologies that are being used in cities such as Madrid, Barcelona, and Malaga to solve issues of sustainability and related to environmental issues in general. And finally, exploring Galapagos. I'm getting ready to do this with my students this summer. We're going to Galapagos Island, and this is with a focus on nature. They will have to identify a species from the Galapagos Island, and they will work on creating geotags showing the sound, this specific species makes, migrating patterns inside the islands, and all the information that they are able to gather during their field research in Galapagos. So that's basically what I wanted to present today. Thank you.